The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Amidst growing concerns over what's being described as potentially the worst environmental catastrophe in U.S. history, a senior BP executive admitted in a closed-door congressional briefing Tuesday that the ruptured oil well in the Gulf of Mexico could be gushing as much as 60,000 barrels of oil a day. That's more than 10 times the initial estimate of the flow of 5,000 barrels a day. The White House did not comment on BP's hour-long briefing with Congress, but earlier Tuesday, President Obama said his administration is committed to containing the economic damages the slick is set to inflict on local residents, oyster farmers, fishermen, and tourism.
We are committed to preventing as much of the economic damage as possible by working to contain the impact of this potentially devastating spill. In addition, wherever possible, I would like to see the people most affected by the disaster employed in helping in the cleanup. And we will continue to explore every possible option to create jobs and support local economies in the Gulf while continuing to monitor any potential effects on the national economy.
Meanwhile, the expanding oil slick has hit the shores of Louisiana's Chandeleur Islands, a wildlife refuge 60 miles from New Orleans. With the slick now reportedly less than 30 miles from the Alabama and Mississippi coasts, fishermen and residents from across the Gulf Coast are bracing for the impact.
I worked 30 years at my business, building my business up. I have boats, oyster reefs. I can't even do nothing with it. I can't even sell. I couldn't even give my boat away right now. This industry looks like it's shot.
The whole end of the parish pretty much depends on getting on the water in some shape or form, you know, whether it's oysters, crabs, shrimp, charter fishing. So it could affect everybody, you know. It could cripple the parish pretty much.
We're going to be in bad trouble. There's nothing for us to do. I mean, Mother Nature is going to take its course no matter what. And I don't think the way it's spilling into the Gulf, I don't see no chance of them cleaning up the mess. And it could put us out of work for 2 to 3 years, maybe, who knows, maybe longer. Because they ain't really telling us what's going on out there. They just telling you what you want to hear.
It's just like Katrina, catastrophic. That's how I feel.
Tyson Slocum is the director of Public Citizens Energy Program. He says BP has one of the worst safety records of any oil company operating in America. He's joining us from Washington, D.C. We welcome you to Democracy Now! Tyson Slocum, just lay out BP's record.
Sure. They have been fined over $550 million over the last several years for various infractions of federal laws spanning workplace safety, environmental protection, and even anti-market manipulation laws. One of the worst issues with BP was a refinery explosion in Texas City, Texas, in March of 2005 that resulted in BP pleading guilty to a criminal felony violation of the Clean Air Act and paying over $150 million in fines for the explosion that resulted in the deaths of 15 workers and serious injury to 170 other workers. And the important issue here, as we've seen in multiple other instances with BP, Amy, is that the immediate investigation found hundreds of workplace violations. The company was fined. It was placed on probation, where BP was expected to address the hundreds of systemic workplace safety violations that were found. When the Obama administration reviewed whether or not BP had been in compliance with this probationary period, last year the Obama administration's Department of Labor found that BP failed to comply with the terms of its probation and fined the company an additional $87 million. And one of the things that we've seen in all of these fines, whether it's for the oil spill a couple of years ago at Prudhoe Bay, where the Department of Justice found that BP willfully underinvested in routine maintenance that allowed the pipes to corrode, that resulted in 200,000 gallons of crude oil released directly into the tundra, whether it was the Commodity Futures Trading Commission fining the company $300 million for single-handedly manipulating the entire U.S. propane market, whether it's the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission fining BP $21 million for its role in price gouging California electricity consumers during the California electricity crisis, whether it's other violations of the Clean Air Act at its Indiana refinery or workplace violations at its Toledo, Ohio refinery. The fact is that this company, when it's found to have violated the law, the times that it's been put on probation, it has not even adhered to the terms of that probation in multiple instances. And that raises the question of, when we have habitual, repeat corporate lawbreakers, we need to do more than just issue financial penalties against them. When a company like BP is earning $6 billion or more in profits every 3 months, issuing a fine of $20 million here, $50 million here, finding them guilty of crimes, as the Department of Justice has done on 2 occasions in just the last couple of years, that is all just a cost of doing business for the accountants at BP. We've got to think about permanent sanctions against repeat criminal offenders like BP. We've got to start talking about denying them access to lucrative leases that the government sells to these companies. And we've also got to think about revoking corporate charters of companies that habitually demonstrate to the American people that they don't have respect for U.S. laws, U.S. worker safety, or U.S. environmental laws.
Tyson Slocum, the corporation Transocean that manages the deepwater oil rig that exploded?
Yes. The BP was leasing this rig. First, about this oil spill, BP won the rights to this lease at a Department of Interior auction in March of 2008. BP paid $34 million for the right to extract oil and gas, as much of it as they could, over a decade. And so they hired Transocean to operate the rig that basically floats on 5,000 feet of water that then was drilling down. Transocean operates a number of other rigs. Congress and the Department of Interior are going to be conducting a full investigation to determine whether or not there was negligence by either BP, Transocean, which was a contractor that was operating the rig, or Halliburton, the oil services company that had just cemented the well just prior to the explosion. But the fact is that BP was the leaseholder. They are the ones ultimately responsible under the Oil Pollution Act of 1990. And also, BP management would have been overseeing any of the contractors, whether they be Transocean or Halliburton. So even if one of the contractors, whether Halliburton or Transocean, were found to be negligent, it is likely that BP will also be held responsible since they were in charge of managing the entire operation.
Tyson Slocum, we're going to come back to this discussion after break. I also want to ask you why corporate crime that results in people's deaths, whether we're talking about the deaths in Texas of 15 workers or right here in the Gulf, the 11 workers that we now presume are dead, why corporate crime is treated differently than common crime, why people aren't going to jail for the deaths of these workers. We're also going to be joined by an attorney for the family of one of the workers who's died in this explosion. Tyson Slocum is Director of Public Citizens Energy Program. We'll be back with him and others in a minute.